Greetings. In this episode, I talk about the beginnings of the Pilgrim's journey to the New World. Before getting started, I would encourage you to subscribe to the Mossy Feet Books YouTube channel for more great content. If you like my videos, please hit the like button. The more likes I get, the more YouTube will show it to other people, allowing me to grow the channel. I also entreat you to visit my website, www.mossyfeetbooks.com. There you will find sample chapters, podcasts, a slew of content, and links to where you can buy my books. While visiting the website, you can subscribe to it and receive email notification when I publish a new book or other content like this video and podcast. This episode is based on my book, Colonial American History Stories, 1215 through 1665. The first charter granted to the Pilgrims was the Pierce patent granted on February the 2nd, 1620. This patent granted the Virginia Company of London to John Pierce never took effect. The Pilgrims sailed in September 1620 and reached the New World in early November. However, bad weather and bad luck forced them to land in an area outside the land granted to them by the charter. Governor John Bradford drew up the Mayflower Compact on November the 11th, 1620, to provide a governmental framework in lieu of the invalid charter. It would not be until April 1621 that they would get a charter that covered their colony, and 1630 before they received a patent that put them on firm legal ground. The group of Englishmen and Americans have come to call the Pilgrims left England to live in the Netherlands in 1607 because of religious persecution in England. After much discussion and soul-searching, the congregation decided to leave the Netherlands later on and migrate to the New Worlds across the Atlantic Ocean in 1620. After months of negotiations, the group left Delfshaven, Netherlands for England. From there, they would board the Mayflower and Speedwell to sail into the new lands to the west. The Pilgrims did not call themselves Pilgrims. That term did not originate until the early 19th century. Their origins were at a congregation in Scrooby, Nottinghamshire, England, whose ministers, Richard Clifton and John Robinson, began teaching a policy of separation from the Anglican Church around 1586. Under the 1559 Act of Uniformity, it was illegal not to attend services of the Anglican Church. Disobedience to the law meant fines and possible imprisonment. The early nonconformists in Scrooby became known as separatists and suffered severe religious persecution. Thus, hearing that the Netherlands were more tolerant of religious differences, the group moved there in 1607 to escape England. They had settled in Leiden, Holland, which had about 100,000 inhabitants at the time. Leiden University in the city provided jobs for many, and many more managed to work as printers, brewers, and textile workers. Others struggled to find employment in the city. They were also troubled because their children were growing up Dutch. They feared losing their English identity. Another European war loomed between the Netherlands and Spain, a conflict in which they did not wish to involve themselves. So, in the words of their leader at the time, William Bradford, they decided to leave. Quote, that goodly and pleasant city which had been their resting place for near 12 years, but they knew they were pilgrims and looked not much on those things, but lift up their eyes to the heavens, their dearest country, and quieted their spirits. Unquote. Later, historians use Bradford's term pilgrim to designate the group of separatists that migrated to England to the Netherlands and finally to the land that became Plymouth, Massachusetts. The leaders of the Leiden separatists opened negotiations with the Virginia Company of London to allow them to migrate to the New World. On February the 2nd, 1620, the Virginia Company granted the separatists a patent allowing them to settle in the new lands across the Atlantic. They departed Delfshaven, Netherlands, on the ship Speedwell for their first destination, Northampton, England, on July the 22nd, 1620. This episode is based on my book, Colonial American History Stories, 1215 through 1664, available on the website www.mossyfeetbooks.com. The book is the first book in the 6-volume Timeline of United States History series. Discover some of the famous and almost forgotten historic stories of America. The story begins with the signing of the Magna Carta in 1215, and the beginnings of the concept of limited government, and ends for now with the beginning of the American Revolution in 1775. The articles in the book have much more detail, as well as articles not included in this podcast series. I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and thank